Hello, we are going to read The Child of Urbino. This is by Louise Delarame. And I'm super excited for you guys to jump in. This is our first story from Unit 1 for Semester 2. So let's head into it. Okay, I'm going to have to zoom in. I cannot see that. Okay, let me scoot my screen over here just a little bit. Okay, The Child of Urbino by Louise Delarame. Long ago in the city of Urbino, there lived a master potter named shoot. Benedetto. I looked at it and I just blinked. Okay, Long ago in the city of Urbino, there lived a master potter named Benedetto. Benedetto had a daughter, Pacifica, whom he loved very much. But the dearest thing in the world to him, dearer even than Pacifica, was his pottery. And his greatest sorrow was that he had no son to carry on his art. The sorrow was the greater. What they basically mean is his sorrow was even greater because across the mountains, a younger man was gaining fame as a potter and in time seemed likely to outdo Benedetto in the pottery of Urbino. So, just recap on the first paragraph. We've got Benedetto and his daughter Pacifica. Benedetto is a potter and he loves his pottery, but he can't pass it on to Pacifica because she's a girl. So he really wished that he had a son, and he's really sad because one, he doesn't have a son to pass it on to, and two, because there's this other potter in a few like towns over who's becoming very popular, and he's worried that people are going to start buying from this new potter, and no one's going to care about his pottery anymore. So that's like the first paragraph in a nutshell. Okay, let's keep going. Benedetto, I'm right here. Benedetto had a neighbor, and this neighbor had a son, a little fair haired, gray eyed child of 7 named Raphael. Raphael's father was an artist, and very early the child began to learn from him to hold the brush and mix colors. He was often seen too in the workshop of Benedetto, for the potter loved the boy, both for himself and for the love that he already showed for art. For hours at a time, Raphael would stand quietly beside the old man as he worked, noting each detail of the potter's skill and storing up in his little head the things he learned there. He was a friend, too, of the tall, dark eyed Pacifica, who was ever ready to stop her work to play with him. But best of all, he loved big, gentle Luca. Luca had come down from the hills to learn the potter's trade from Benedetto. He was tall and straight, and he loved Benedetto's daughter with all his heart. But alas, poor Luca, good and handsome though he was, would never be an artist. He knew it. He knew also that Benedetto would never look with favor upon any but a great artist as the husband of Pacifica, and he despaired of ever winning her. He often told his trouble to Raphael, who felt very sorry for the young man and comforted him as best he could. Okay, so let's pause again. All right, so Raphael is Benedetto's neighbor's son. So Benedetto has a neighbor, and the neighbor's son is named Raphael. And the neighbor is an artist, he paints. And so Raphael, the 7-year-old kid, he watches his dad paint, and then he goes to his neighbor's house, Benedetto, and watches Benedetto do pottery. So Raphael is looking at his dad and his neighbor, and he's like, wow, this is so cool. And he's learning from these things. Okay, so then we have Pacifica, right? Which is Benedetto's daughter. So Luca is in love with Pacifica. So he's coming over to Benedetto to be like, oh, yeah, your pottery is so cool, your daughter. So he's in love with her. Okay. But he knows that Benedetto will never allow him to marry Pacifica because Benedetto would only allow an artist to marry his daughter. And Luca is not an artist. So there we go. All right, let's keep going. Oh, and then just the fact that like Luca like cries about this to Raphael, a 7-year-old kid. Whatever. And so Raphael's like, there, buddy. Okay, so we're right here. One day, Luca came to Raphael in deep trouble. An order had come from the Duke of a great jar and platter. It was to be sent over the mountains as a gift to the Duke's cousin. Everyone in the potter's workshop must strive to fill the order in a way that would be pleasing to the Duke. Benedetto had let it be known that the man who was lucky enough to please the Duke might become Benedetto's partner and likewise his son-in-law. So Benedetto owns the little pottery workshop, and he says to all his workers, listen up. We have this huge order from the Duke, and it's very important that this order be perfect. So whoever makes the perfect, jar and platter, whoever makes the perfect jar and platter, you are going to be my partner, since I don't have a son. You're going to be my partner and perhaps my son-in-law. I'm going to allow you to marry my daughter, Pacifica. So Luca, remember, Luca's in love with Pacifica, but he's not a good artist. So he's now worried because somebody else could end up getting Pacifica's hand in marriage instead of just him. So let's keep reading. Poor Luca, we're down here at the bottom, about to turn the page. Poor Luca was in despair. He knew very well that his chance of winning Pacifica was gone. Raphael's tender heart was touched. How long do you have to complete this work, Luca? He asked hopefully. 3 months, answered Luca, but it makes no difference. I could never do it in 3 years. Raphael thought for a long while. At last, putting his hand in Luca's, he said, Luca, let me try to paint a jar and platter. If Luca had not been so miserable, the sight of the little fellow would have made him laugh. Please, Luca, pleaded the child. I can paint, you know. I have often watched Benedetto at work. Please, Luca, it can do no harm. Finally, rather than hurt the boy's feelings, Luca assented. Day after day, Raphael climbed the stairs to Luca's workroom. Pacifica, watching him, thought he went to watch and cheer Luca, and was sad because she knew that his faithfulness would do nothing toward helping Luca win the prize. But up in the bare garret, the child was working hard. How thankful he was for the hours spent with Benedetto, and for the lessons of his father, the painter. How anxiously he toiled, painting and rubbing out and painting again. Not a word did he breathe about his work, nor would he even allow Luca to look at what he did. Each night he covered it carefully so that no one might catch a glimpse of it. Meanwhile, Luca was working away hopelessly, too sad to notice his little friend. At last, the day before the end of the 3 months, Raphael called Luca to see his work. Trembling with eagerness, he uncovered his jar and platter and showed them to his friend. One glance was enough. The astonished youth fell on his knees, crying in wonder at the beauty of the child's work. Raphael danced up and down with joy. But Raphael, cried poor Luca, it can do me no good. This is your work. It would be cheating for me to win Pacifica this way. I could not do it. Wait, said the child, I have a plan. On the next day, the Duke was to come to choose his pottery. From all the country round, the youth had gathered, bringing their work to be judged. The pottery was placed on benches in the great workroom, each piece being marked with a number instead of a name, in order that the judges might not know whose work it was, and that the judgment should be quite fair. In the outer room, okay, so just in case we're confused. So now the 3 months is over. The Duke is coming to pick a bowl and platter to be sent off to his cousin. So all of the people in Benedetto's workshop, they've all brought forth their platters and things to show and say, and it's a blind reaction. It's a blind judging. The judge is going to come. The Duke is going to come. They're going to pick a platter, not knowing who it belongs to, so that it's fair. Okay. All right, let's move to the next. In the outer room, Benedetto and a few friends waited for the Duke to come. Little Raphael was there, very pale, clinging to his father's hand. When the Duke appeared, Benedetto led the way to his workroom. The Duke passed along the row of jars and platters, praising each. At last he stopped. This is beyond all comparison, he said, turning to the potter. Master Benedetto, whose work is this? Benedetto stepped forward and looked at the pottery. It can be none of my people, he said. I have no one in my workshop who could do work such as that. Number 11, he added, looking at the gathering of potters. Step forward. The Duke has chosen your work. In the hush that followed, the child Raphael stepped out. I painted it, he said with a pleased smile. I, Raphael. Immediately the room was in confusion. The astonished potters gathered about the child while Benedetto and Raphael's father looked on in amazement. With tears in his eyes, the Duke took a jewel that hung on a gold chain around his neck and placed it over Raphael's shoulders. "This is your first reward," he said. "You will have many, O wondrous child, who shall live when we are dust." Raphael kissed the Duke's hand. Then he turned to his father. "Is it true," he asked, "that my jar and platter have been chosen?" His father could only bow his head. Then said Raphael, looking up bravely at Benedetto, "Master, I claim the prize." There was a little ripple of laughter. "I am your pupil," said the child. "If you had not taught me your secrets, I could never have painted these. Now, dear master, I give my right to my friend Luca, who is the honestest man in all the world, and does love Pacifica as no other can do." Benedetto burst into tears. "Indeed," he said, "I can refuse him nothing. He will give such glory to Urbino as the world has never seen." And the words that Benedetto spoke were fulfilled in the years to come. Such a cute little story. I love it. All right, that is the end of